If it isn't obvious that I adore our beloved Savannah, Georgia, in case you haven't been listening to our episodes before this, today we're going to explore some haunted pubs and restaurants. So you get to get your ghoul on when you get your eat on.
The Moon River Brewing Company is one of the oldest and most historic buildings in Savannah. It is located at 21 West Bay Street. Nowadays, you'll experience handcrafted beers and an excellent menu. They're going to be your favorite haunt since 1991. The building that houses the Moon River Brewing Company was built in 1821, and it has been many things since its inception. It was the first city hotel, which temporarily housed Savannah's prominent and wealthy residents while they shared in the imported, from all over the world, spirits available. The hotel housed its last guest in 1864, right before General Sherman claimed the city in his famous March to the Sea during the American Revolution. Later, it would serve as a hospital, supporting those during the numerous yellow fever outbreaks. Sadly, hundreds of people, mainly kids, died on the upper floors during these outbreaks. So, if you see the spirit of a child, don't be surprised. Later, it was used as a storage space, and then an office supply store, and that's when it sat vacant for nearly 20 years. And then, in 1995, it was purchased, and a few years later, we welcomed the Moon River Brewing Company. So, knowing this history, knowing how old this building is, and what it's been through, because it has been through a lot in its many, many years of being here, we all know that one of the most active spots in any place that has one of these is the basement. It gets its fair share of spooky vibes just by simply existing. This is one spot at the brewery that is very active and gets a lot of attention. This is where Toby is seen as he moves within the shadows. I don't know if he's a very nice ghost because he does cause panic among the guests, if you will. One woman experienced panic, entire panic, as the entire right side, her body became icy cold very quickly while she was hearing voices. She was moved outside where the experience ended. Others have expressed that they've had similar situations, and it is said that this is the most active of locations at the brewery. If you're not the person who goes specifically for the ghosty ghouls and you go for food, you will be dining with them. Now, I would be wary about using that restroom though, y'all, and I'm going to tell you why. There have been times where a ghost has held a woman captive in a bathroom stall. It has been said that one woman was on a date when she excused herself to the restroom. Normal tidings, right? She attempted to exit the stall upon completion, but found herself stuck. She knew the door wasn't locked and put all of her weight into it, but the door still wouldn't budge. She began to panic, rightfully so, but didn't want to make a scene. After a few moments, she called out to whomever was there, "Let me out of this stall!" The door gave way and she exited the stall. She took a moment to compose herself, obviously, before going back to her date to reassure them that she wasn't trying to escape. The woman said something to the waitress about her experience, and to the woman who had a moment of panic, she was shocked when this wasn't a surprise. They explained that this was not the first time it had happened, and that doesn't surprise me. Now, they say another woman experienced someone grabbing her legs by gripping her thighs and squeezing. This is when she clearly saw that her dinner companion had both hands in her view. So, who was grabbing her thighs and squeezing? It's safe to say that the woman did not go back. We've talked about dining with the ghosts, and we've talked about exploring Toby's area. We're going to talk about the upper floors, though, now. So, second floor has been noted that the famous shooting of James Stark took place there. It was said that he was shot by a town physician, Philip Minus. If you ask where he was killed, you could be told on the staircase or the kitchen. Now, I'm sure there will be several variations, as it typically goes in Savannah. Stark is said to roam the main floor, though. Now, we all know about the Lady in White. Well, the Moon River Brewing Company has its own Lady in White. This one isn't so nice, though, because she likes to push people down the stairs, and she will chase out construction crews. I guess she's just not a happy camper, if I'm being really honest. And then, I think I remember saying something about the yellow fever outbreaks. This is where the fourth floor comes in. It harbors dark energy, and this is where they made a makeshift hospital during the yellow fever outbreak, or at least one of them. So you have to wonder if all that dark energy is the collective energy of those lives lost to the yellow fever. Whatever way you put it, it really doesn't matter. The Moon River Brewing Company is haunted to the extreme, and I'm gonna say that I would love it. You can dine with the guest, go into their territories, or Lord forbid that you get stuck in that bathroom. But nowadays we have cell phones, so we can be like, "Hey, I'm stuck in the bathroom. I'm not leaving. I'm not leaving. Okay, guys. There's a ghost hold me hostage." And then people in Savannah might believe that. I would believe it. But that being said, the Moon River Brewing Company, between its wonderful menu, its multiple handcrafted beers, and its ghostly adventures, I'm sure that you'll find something to entertain yourself with. Now we're going to explore Tondi's Tavern. This building that houses Tondi's Tavern dates back to 1853. This is so crazy to me because the ground floor was once used by the Central Railway and Banking Company. The upper floor, which was accessed by the rear of the building, hosted the offices of Joseph Bryan. Now, here's where, he's a little, Joseph Bryan was the largest and most infamous slave broker of the 1850s in Savannah, though it cannot be verified. It's been suggested that slaves were stored in the basement, which is horrible, just horrible. I couldn't even imagine. It's bad enough that they can verify that slave pens were situated right outside the back door in Bay Lane, much less in the basement. We all know how basements go. Now, during the Civil War, specifically during the occupation of Savannah by Sherman, this was used by General John Geary or the Union Army. Now, Tondi's Tavern calls this building home. There isn't much to say on any specific ghostly resident that has stayed there. But I can only imagine if it is true, and it has to be because it's been verified about the slave pens. There may be some spirits that still linger that just don't let themselves be known. But at the same time, they maybe have very little. But the only way to find out if there is any sort of residence of the ghostly nature is to visit. So, my little buttercups, if you decide to go to Tondi's Tavern and you experience some ghostly, ghouly stuff, let this Teabelle know. I think the rest of us want to know because there's not much to be said. But that being said, that is Tondi's Tavern. And though there's little on it, I'm sure that is a wonderful place to go. And it came to my realization that I thought I should include some more information for you guys for this. It is locally owned and it is located at 7 East Bay Street. It is named for one of Savannah's earliest and most successful taverns, which was located at the corner of Broughton Street and Whitaker Street between 1770 and 1785. Savannah's Sons of Liberty, an early American group of patriots and soldiers, met there regularly. Legend has it that the Declaration of Independence was read aloud in Georgia for the first time at this infamous 18th century establishment. So, one of the great things I like about this is that it is very, how do I put it? It's very history and owned, endowed, whatever you want to call it. But that being said, at the end of the day, you can go and actually get food. So, what can you get? Let's just dive into future now or present, if you will, or future for me because I'm not there and it'll be in the future when I get to go. But you can locate a menu, the time and stuff, but I'm going to throw that out there for you. Kind of let you know when you want to go. So, it is, to remind us, 7 East Bay Street. And their hours are Sunday to Thursday, 11 a.m. to 10 p.m. Friday and Saturday is 11 a.m. to 2:30 a.m. So this is where you can go to probably get late night food. Woohoo! Now, they serve up handmade Southern cuisine amongst the historically accented and richly decorated interior. So you can take a step back in time and delight your culinary senses. Looking at And they do have events. So there you go. That's one of the cool things. So go ahead, take your, if you're in Savannah, you can take your, some of your time and check them out. Get a little bit grub, see if there's any ghosty ghoulies, and maybe see what they're doing. Our next haunted pub is a one-of-a-kind pub in the heart of the district, the historic district, that was once known as Wally's Sixpence. The Sixpence Pub was originally owned by Wally and Doris, who hailed from London, except then it was called Wally's Sixpence. So they wanted everyone to enjoy the atmosphere of their pub. During their 40 years, they didn't even have a kitchen, guys. Like, no kitchen. Doris made the food at her house nearby. And they really just served food until they ran out or decided to call it a day, which I've been there. I totally get that. As an owner, you have that right. As a patron, you better just get there, early. But in 1999, two patrons with, quote, too much time on their hands purchased their favorite watering hole, end quote. Or that's what the official website claims. These gentlemen offer a full English and Americana comfort menu. And even with their Americana comfort, it is said that this pub is the most authentic English pub in Georgia. So for all you Englishmen or people who like that type of stuff, this is your place. Go check it out. See what those two patrons with too much time on their hands are doing. Now, here's the really cool thing. So, of course, we talk about the basement a lot. But when it comes to, Restaurants, obviously the kitchen is probably another hot spot, right? So, in the kitchen, their ghostly friends seem to target the kitchen staff. Pans and pots have been known to fly off countertops as if being powered by an invisible force. Well, no, duh, because you're in a haunted city. It's not invisible. You just don't see them because they don't let you see them. That's my conspiracy theory for the day. Anyways, in one bizarre moment, an office chair turned in a circle and slid across the floor untouched. Probably to the horror of the person being that's watching this. Okay. And there have also been electrical issues from temps dropping randomly along with the thermostat to shattering light bulbs. Which, fun fact, sometimes they use electrical stuff to get their presence across to you. So, at Sixpence Pub, you are going to see some very, very cool things. Well, maybe not cool to the staff, but and heck, you may not even see it. Let's be honest. But at the end of the day, those poor people do have to deal with someone who guess maybe doesn't want them there. We'll see. Now, if you want to go visit the Sixpence Pub, well, I'm going to give you that information too. Because eventually, I will make my way to our beloved Savannah, Georgia. And when I do, I need to know where I can find the ghosties and the ghoulies and the good food. Which, that's always on my list of things to do. So, now, what I'm going to tell you is that if you do find any ghostly ghouly stories that don't involve the kitchen or just involve anything about it, let us know. Okay? So, it is located in the heart of the district at 245 Bull Street. All right? It was named one of the 14 best bars in Savannah. And their menu does consist, like we said, of English and Americana food. So you kind of have that going for you. So if you have a picky crew or you just have a large one that doesn't know what they want, you kind of have that option available. As far as their menu goes, though, I'm sure you can find it before your travels. And with that being said, you will probably find some stuff that is really good. And any food recommendations is also good to know, especially for those visiting later, eventually. So, when you go to the Sixpence Pub, we want to hear about the ghosts and the food recommendations. Thank you so much, guys, because that is going to make somebody very happy. Heck, do it with all of them. You don't have to do it just this one. Any recommendations for food and the ghosts would be fantastic. The Pink House Restaurant. So, we're going to talk about the history of this place first because I think it's really, really interesting. This was a father versus son sort of situation, okay? So, James Habersham Sr. was one of the richest men in the colony. He was also the first person from Georgia to send bales of cotton to England, so that's cool. And even as a slave owner, he had a shred of dignity in his soul, as he also was the headmaster for the Bethesda Orphanage's School, which was the first orphanage in the New World. So I guess he evened it out a little bit, but maybe not completely. Now, here's one thing that is an issue. Habersham Sr. was pro-British. Um, as it was read, some would call him also the Kanye West of all British loyalists. To the old man, knowing all of his sons joined the Sons of Liberty and were willing to fight for the colonies in the middle of talks of a revolution against his beloved Britain, broke his heart. And he must have felt betrayed that his three boys were willing to fight against not just Britain, but him and everything he stood for. Now, we don't care so much about him. He just is here to let us know that Haversham Jr. was the eldest of the three boys. And even though he was the oldest and you would think had, would be the one to have the most famous or, be remembered for everlasting fame, it was actually the middle son Joseph who would achieve that. He did this by arresting the English governor on January 18th, 1776. Sorry, guys, I just can't even imagine. This middle son trying to, well, yeah, this middle son trying to make a name for himself. At 24 years old, he was headstrong, and he merely sat a hand on Sir James Wright's shoulder and declared, "Sir James, you are my prisoner." So, yeah, middle brother kind of probably did have that more famous everlasting fame thing, right? But Habersham Jr., which is the one we're really focusing on, he was more subdued, and this man used logic. He operated behind the scenes because he used his connections to help fund the Revolutionary War. And because of his efforts, he proudly served as a Speaker of the General Assembly of Georgia in 1782 and 1784. He also served on the Board of Trustees in 1785, which established, dun dun dun, the University of Georgia. And this is where his dream of a home where he could be the most gracious of hosts to his family and friends came about. He was a wealthy cotton planter, and he aided in the fight for freedom for the colonies, and it was his turn. So he used his wealth to achieve his dream in 1789 after 18 years of work. Okay? In 1799, though, he'd only had this house 10 years, his dream home, when he passed away suspiciously. Now, his home stands to this very day and is known as the Old Pink House Restaurant. And it has become a prominent place for its 18th century architecture and Southern cuisine. Now, the fun part about all this, guys, is that this man, James Habersham Jr., he still likes to check in from time to time from his ghostly side of things, and he will appear in his colonial clothes while drinking ale. He will observe those in his home, and he will have conversations with patrons and dash within a blink of an eye. They always think he's a reenactor. He is also a gentleman who will clean up behind you. But I don't blame him that he dislikes the heat and chooses to frequent the restaurant between October and March. Summer heat's no joke, and I'm sure now our summer heat's way worse than it used to be. And he always likes a candle to be lit on each table. So he built this home to be a gracious host, and he said, "You know what? It's my house. I'm staying." Does anybody else blame him? Now, there are other ghosts you could run into. There is a Revolutionary War veteran. Some speculate that it is his younger brother Joseph. This is where this man will ask patrons to raise their glass for a toast with a joyous, drunken smile glazed on his face. And before you take a sip, he vanishes. Now, another Habersham descendant has been known to take a solid shape and order a few drinks. And then he will be seen exiting the bar as the night winds down to walk back to the cemetery. So if he is there and he is not, you might not be drunk. He might just be saying, "Adios, people." Now, we have some more genial, happy ones. But unfortunately, there's always somebody that's not happy when it comes to this situation. And there's a female guest on the second floor who has been seen sobbing by patrons and employees. Unfortunately, we don't know anything about this poor soul. Okay? Now, if you happen to have access to the second floor and you want to find out, and she does say something, again, let us know. We want to know. Pour us the tea. Now, you're also going to find house servants. Obviously, they're former house servants. and they've been known to be seen wandering through the building in a clueless state. They're not angry, they're not vengeful, they're just confused. They probably don't know what's going on. Now, this is where the sad part. You have the happy, the sad, the confused. You also have the oblivious, maybe you want to call it. And I say that because they believe that it's slave children who perished during the unfortunate house fires and or bouts of yellow fever. They can be seen playing, throwing dice against the wall in the former basement, which, to remind us all, is the tavern. Yes, I said the word basement. We already know it's a hot spot. And they do play tricks on patrons, such as locking women in the bathroom, which has led management to take off the locks of the doors, which it did solve it for a while, but now they're just like, cool, I'll hold the door. So I guess that's where you politely ask and say, hey, can you let me out? I don't know. Now, to enjoy your time there, they do suggest a few tips to get the most out of your visit. You want to make a reservation in advance, okay? Wear something nice, and remember that it's located at 23 Abercorn Street on Reynolds Square. Okay? Now, there are some fun facts that I think are worth sharing, and I hope you like them. The Old Pink House has now become one of the top restaurants in Savannah. It's offering elegant fine dining on the main floor and a more casual tavern bar in the cellar below, i.e., the basement, i.e., where all the ghosts are, so let's go to the tavern. Anyways, it actually played a host to many secret meetings for the independence of the 13 colonies. Thank you, Habersham Jr. In 1811, the house became the first bank of Georgia, known as Planters Bank. So it went from a house to a bank. And then in the time of Sherman's, taking over of Savannah, Union General Zebulon York set up headquarters in this house for Sherman's march to the sea. And this is one of the few houses to survive the fire of 1796 that burned over 200 homes. So this house has done a lot, just like all the other ones, but it did a lot for our freedom, right? The sister and brother-in-law of William J. occupied the house from 1804 to 1812. And here's just what it's supposed to look like and why it's named what it is. It was constructed out of red bricks and covered with white stucco. It has been said that the restaurant actually got its famous name because when the red bricks would bleed through the stucco, the outward appearance would become a pinkish color. Habersham, not so secure with his masculinity, didn't want to be the guy known for living in a big old pink house. We just know this, it makes sense. The white paint was never quite up to the job of concealing this continuous bleeding from the bricks. This mayhem, this chaos, all of this surrounding this maddening absurdity routinely went on until the 1920s. This is when a woman, secure with home femininity, ran the home as a tea room, finally made the only rational decision after hundreds of years of abstinent behavior and painted the place orange. Sorry, it's pink. She painted the house pink, and from then on, the house has been repainted the same shade of pink yearly, rather than the time-consuming hassle of replastering the entire home. So it took a woman in the 1920s to say, look, guys, it's pink. Just get over it. And she paints it the same color every year to refresh it. This is why we know this place as the Old Pink Restaurant, Pink House Restaurant. And it doesn't offer just food, but it offers you that ghostly fun that I'm sure many people who go to Savannah look for. So if you happen to see any of the young men, James or maybe his brother or anybody, talk to us about it. Let us know, like what happened. All right. So we know that pirates were a thing. Well, back in the day, and probably still are, but it was more prevalent then, right? Well, the pirate's house is a very, very, very cool place, and maybe it wasn't so nice though. It is very cool to note that the building housing this restaurant, the Pirate's House, is over 250 years old. It's so the small building that stands beside what people often call the quote main building is called the Herb House. This dates back to 1754 and is considered to be the oldest building in Georgia. Now, in the early days, this building was a gathering place for many men who traveled the seas, seamen, if you will, criminals, and other unsavory characters. Most people didn't want to even be around there due to its reputation. I mean, just saying. So, here was the problem that a man could go in there for a drink, but wake up on a ship hundreds of miles away. And they either had a choice of working the ship or getting thrown overboard. And to get them there was a tunnel, or is a tunnel, that leads from the rum cellar of the basement to River Street. And that was where they used to carry the men as they were shanghaied. Now, whether or not the tunnel is still open today is, we'd have to find out. But, besides the possibility of being kidnapped to work a ship by someone, there was also murders, fights, brawls. It was your run of the mill, don't go there. Right? Now, this would make for very interesting ghostly residents, right? Because if you think about it, like how many people, would really be there. And so, as you make your way through the dining room of present day Pirate's House, you might see shadow people or other ghosts. And see, when the staff are working all alone in the building, they feel like they're being watched. It's probably the same people who are watching you, the shadow people, or other ghosts, right? Now, you can see a seaman from long ago standing there looking you right in the eyes and slowly drift into nothingness. You can also hear footsteps in the form of boots on the plank floors, and it could echo through quiet evenings. So there's not really many stories about one or two specific ghosts, but it is very much implied that, as I said before, there will be a lot of probably spirits lingering about. And the goal is really just to visit and see if you can meet one or many of those. Taking your time. Maybe go once or twice. Maybe move down there and make it a regular hunt. Who knows? A regular hunt. Just saying. So, if you do want to visit, and I'll be honest, I very much have a desire to go when I eventually get to go to Savannah. You need to know where to go. And to know where to go, we're going to look at the website for this very haunted with probably, many people who don't really show themselves, and try and find out what the the menu is and where it's at, hours and such. And I'll just give you a heads up, and you can look for yourself because things may change between now and then. Um, but I would also very much think it would be very interesting to just go and see if you could um, talk to people, right? So, some more information that the website does offer for it is that it is 7 blocks west from where General Oglethorpe landed in 1733. And so it was opened in 1753 as an inn for the seafarers and was a meeting point for sailors and pirates and that, right? Now, you do need to probably do a reservation, okay? Make your life a little easier. Now, Where are you going? You're going to 20 East Broad Street. All right? Because that's just going to make, just go there, do your reservation. And now there are, menus are subject to change, but they do looks like seafood. So they have a she crab soup and hold on here. Low country spring rolls. Barbecue pulled pork and collard greens wrapped and fried in a spring roll served with spicy mustard and barbecue sauce. I wouldn't mind trying that without the collard greens. But you can do some beef choices, some salads, shrimp and grits. They have chicken. So there's a good amount of choices here. Guys, steaks, shrimps, grouper, steak frites. Um, but like they say, the menu can change, and that's just dinner. I'm gonna look at desserts just because you know what? If you have a big enough group, you can always get desserts, right? They have a dessert of the day. Ask your server. And for the little pirates, you can do a sundae, ice cream, or Tiny Tim. And it's just a sundae. It's just vanilla ice cream with chocolate syrup and cherries. Huh, cool. All right. So that's just my. Oh, they have some. Oh, now I'm looking at the drinks, like the drinks, the adult drinks. And so they do have some interesting named drinks. And I'll say that some of them look very interesting. They have wine, Zinfandel, white wine, Chardonnays. So they have beers. Honestly, guys, the fact of the matter is go get food, go find the tavern, go get your drinks, go hang out, talk to the ghosts, eat the good food, and enjoy life. Just saying. It is no question that our beloved Savannah is haunted. It is no question that the level of spookiness is beyond that of an average city. I love this about Savannah. I hope that if any Buttercup has any personal stories they want to share, I would be thrilled to hear them. I really want to have an episode of stories from all of you delightful Buttercups. Tell me everything about those ghost people. Everything. And with that said, Buttercups, I hope you enjoyed this very, very busy episode and that I hope you have a spectacular, spooky week.